and everyone watching across our great nation, thank you for being with us. The theme of Veterans Day 2024 is a legacy of loyalty and service. For over 160 years, Arlington National Cemetery's legacy has been to serve, proudly and honorably, as the final resting place for more than 420,000 service members and their families. I cannot think of a more fitting place than here, the very center of our nation's most hallowed grounds, to commemorate and honor America's past, present, and future service members. Arlington National Cemetery embodies our nation's enduring gratitude for our veterans. Each grave marker and monument tell a story of service, commitment, and sacrifice. These 639 acres represent a solemn gathering place for families and friends to remember their service members, celebrate their contributions, and take comfort in their everlasting legacy that continues to uplift our country today. It is poignant that each person here today and across the nation, we can all recall the impact a service member has had on our lives, whether personally or through the steadfast protection of our nation. The courageous actions of those who serve have an enduring legacy, not just in the United States, but across the world. And as you walk the grounds of our nation's most sacred shrine, remember, no gravesite at Arlington National Cemetery can ever be purchased. Each must be earned with honorable service. To those with family or friends laid to rest here, please know we will always take care of your loved one. Remember them and recognize their service to this great nation. This commitment is the heartbeat of our mission, and each day it inspires every one of our active duty, veteran, and civilian employees. To serve here is an honor and a privilege. I extend my gratitude to spouses, parents, family members, and the Gold Star community for your unwavering devotion and commitment to your loved ones who have served or are currently serving in any capacity. Your courageous support does not go unnoticed. And for veterans, you are the backbone of our country. You have taken an oath to honor and protect our country. And in the words of President Eisenhower, your service preserves our heritage of freedom. And our mission at Arlington National Cemetery is to honor you, always. We see you and we celebrate your legacy, loyalty, and service today and every day. Again, welcome to Arlington National Cemetery. Thank you.
I would now like to introduce our Veterans Service Organization host for 2024, the Fleet Reserve Association. Today on Veterans Day, the Fleet Reserve Association celebrates its 100th anniversary as a congressionally chartered VSO. FRA is dedicated to representing the interests and needs of former and current members of the United States Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard before Congress and other government agencies. FRA was born out of the need to protect the pay and benefits of sea service members and their families. Founded by Navy Chief Yeoman George L. Carlin, FRA received its charter in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1924. In 1998, FRA became the first organization to seek repeal of the Military Retirement Reform Act, leading Congress to change the law. FRA joined other VSOs in campaigns, such as authorizing pay hikes for mid-career enlisted personnel, calling for payday lending reform, providing post-9/11 GI Bill benefits to career personnel and their families, implementing absentee voting reform, passing the Blue Water Navy Vietnam Veterans Act, and most recently, the passing of the PACT Act. FRA is a sponsor of the Navy's Sailors and Recruiters of the Year, the Marine Corps Recruiters and Drill Instructors of the Year, and the Coast Guard Enlisted Persons and Recruiters of the Year. Annually, FRA sponsors a patriotic-themed essay contest for students in grades 7 through 12 and awards higher education scholarships to sea service family members totaling more than $100,000. At the forefront of FRA's engagement during the past year is FRA's National President, Mr. John S. Hanzik. A Vietnam veteran, Mr. Hanzik joined FRA in 1968. In September 2023, he was elected to the position of FRA National President. Honored guests, please welcome the President of the Reserve Association, Mr. John S. Hanzik.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the 2024 Veterans Day service here at Arlington. We gather here in these hallowed grounds to honor and give thanks to all our veterans for their service and sacrifice in protecting our great nation. Some of my thunder was stolen a little bit ago, but I'm going to say this anyway. In 1954, under then-President Dwight Eisenhower, Armistice Day was transitioned to become Veterans Day to honor and include all veterans. I believe it was his intent when he said to include all veterans. He also meant veterans who had made the ultimate sacrifice. To my fellow veterans, I salute you. And I thank you for your service and sacrifice. But there's another group out here today and across this great nation that also deserves recognition. It's our families and our loved ones who support and sacrifice us while we serve. We couldn't have done our jobs without their support. And to you, I also say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Once again, I'm going to repeat something, but I have to do this because I'm very proud of it. This is also a special day for the Fleet Reserve Association, as previously mentioned. On this day in 1924, Congress chartered us as a veteran service organization. We are 100 years old. To my fellow shipmates, happy birthday! I mentioned to the VA secretary a moment ago before I got up here to speak, never in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine becoming national president, let alone for the centennial, or the honor and privilege to address all of you today. But again, I want to say thank you for attending. God bless our troops. Bring them home safe. God bless our families and their families, and keep them safe. And God bless America. Now I am honored to introduce the host for today's ceremony and our chair for the Veterans Day National Committee and the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Dennis McDonough. Mr. Secretary.
Thank you, John.
My pleasure.
Thank you,
I
Dave.
hope to see you again tomorrow, too.
Yes, you do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
John, thank you very much for that introduction, for your leadership of the Fleet Reserve Association, and a special thanks to your team for partnering with VA and hosting today's ceremony. Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Ranking Member Takano, teammates among the cabinet members, most importantly, all the veterans, your families, caregivers, and survivors, good morning. In all of America, there is no place more sacred than the ground we stand on today here in Arlington and across our country's national and state veteran cemeteries. Here lie in eternal rest presidents and privates, five-star generals, Medal of Honor recipients, and anonymous heroes known but to God. There are veterans from every American war since the Revolution, including veterans of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan buried in Section 60. Every new grave dug, every benediction murmured, every tear shed, every solemn commitment to this hallowed ground tells the story of our nation's history. Yet as I look around, I see something else too. I see friends, loved ones, family members of veterans. Some sitting next to their veteran, holding hands, grateful for their presence. Others here to mourn their lost loved one, buried within these sacred hills overlooking our nation's capital. As John just said, military and veteran family members may not wear a uniform, but their courage and sacrifice are profound and worthy of our admiration. Military families endure the hardships of long deployments and training exercises without their loved ones. They pick up their lives and move across the country, even across the globe when their service member gets a new assignment. They selflessly care for the injured or ill service member or veteran when they're unable to care for themselves. So we're here today to honor them as well. I'm thinking of veteran family members like Angela Bell. Angela's son, Sean, served 20 years in the Army and died by suicide in 2021. Angela has dedicated her life to helping other families avoid that same devastation. I'm thinking of Cindy and Lee Stover, who've cared for their son, Joe, a Navy veteran, since he was partially paralyzed after a traumatic brain injury. Cindy and Lee show that veteran caregivers are heroes too. I'm thinking of Danny Ingram, Marine veteran, husband to a fellow Marine, Staff Sergeant Eric Alva, the first Marine seriously injured in the Iraq War. Danny fights for all veterans and family members, saying that, like so many military spouses, I do what I can to be supportive of someone who's not only my love, but also my hero. I'm thinking of Ellen Gustafson, wife of an active duty Navy SEAL. Ellen brings together veterans and military family members to volunteer as poll workers, strengthening our nation and its democracy through public service. I'm thinking of Jeremy Hilton, Navy veteran and Air Force spouse. Jeremy has found a new mission, advocating for military children with special needs. And I'm thinking of family members like VA's Deputy Secretary Tanya Bradshaw, Army combat vet, spouse, daughter, granddaughter of combat veterans. An example of the shared family value of service that is so often passed down from one generation to another. Of course, we have another strong military family in attendance today. The surviving mother and father of Iraq combat vet, Major Bo Biden. President Biden and Dr. Biden have been unrelenting in their advocacy for veterans and their families. President Biden has spent his entire career fighting like hell for veterans, just as he charged me and my VA teammates to do 4 years ago. He has continuously demanded that VA deliver more care and more benefits to more vets than ever before. Mr. President, thank you for your no-nonsense, frequently personally delivered in unmistakable fashion, demand that VA take care of vets. Thank you for reminding us that we still have so much work to do. And thank you for always, always keeping the faith. With that, it is my great privilege and my profound honor to introduce the 46th President of the United States of America, Joe Biden.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a great honor to be standing here again. Over 160 years ago, during what would become his final days in office, President Abraham Lincoln addressed this nation, and he said, "Let us strive on to finish the work we're in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him who shall have borne the battle." My fellow Americans, First Lady, Vice President Harris, and Second Gentleman, Secretary Blinken, Austin, McDonough, Mayorkas, Chairman Brown, most importantly, our veterans, service members, and their families. I've said it many times before. I got in trouble for saying it when I was a young senator. I said, we have many obligations, but only one truly sacred obligation. Sacred. To prepare those we send into harm's way and to care for them and their families when they return home and when they don't. It's an obligation, not based on party or politics, but on a promise that unites us all. And today, as we strive on to finish the work of our moment, to bind the nation's wounds once again, we commit and recommit to this sacred vow. This is the last time I will stand here at Arlington as Commander-in-Chief. It's been the greatest honor of my life to lead you, to serve you, to care for you, to defend you, just as you defended us, generation after generation after generation. You are the greatest fighting force, and this is not hyperbole, the finest fighting force in the history of the world. I'll never forget standing at Valley Forge, our nation's first soldiers laid down their lives to deliver a nation where everyone is entitled to inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And I'll never forget walking the hills of Gettysburg, where thousands more shed their blood to make those words real. I'll never forget in Belleau Woods, visiting there to pay tribute to the heroes who stepped on that beach, or standing in the cliffs of Normandy 80 years after D-Day to honor the service members and veterans who literally saved the world with absolute heroism. Just standing there, you wonder how in God's name did they have the courage to do what they did. I'll never forget visiting bases in Korea, where America's sons and daughters answers a call to defend the people they had never met. For paying my respects in Hanoi, where so many of our troops defended democracy, including my friend and once worked for me, Senator John McCain. I'll never forget my trips to Afghanistan and Iraq, where tour after tour, young men and women served and sacrificed to keep our nation safe. 4 presidents faced a decision after we had gotten bin Laden whether to end our longest war in history in Afghanistan. I was determined not to leave it to the 5th. Every day I still carry a card with me, my schedule every single day for the last 10 years. On the back of my schedule it says, U.S. daily troops in Afghanistan. U.S. troops died in Afghanistan as of today, 2,465. Troops wounded in Afghanistan, 20,769. U.S. troops, Iraq, died in Iraq, 4,620. Wounded in Iraq, 32,766. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my duty as president, but also as a parent. Like many of you, our son Bo Biden deployed to Iraq for a year with the Delaware National Guard. I still remember the day he asked me to pin his bars on him. He stood ramrod straight. How proud Jill and I, our entire family felt. Like so many of you, we also remember how hard it was when he was deployed. Empty seats at the dinner table, missed holidays and birthdays, prayers of hope and worry, repeated every morning and every night. Just as we ask everything of our veterans, we ask everything of their families. The English poet John Milton wrote, and I quote, "They also serve who only stand and wait, as so many of you have." So for all the military families, to all those with a loved one still missing or unaccounted for, to all Americans grieving the loss of a loved one who wore the uniform, Jill and I want you to know we see you, we thank you, and we'll never stop working to meet our sacred obligation to you and your families. Jill and I, Doug and Kamala, our entire administration, are proud of our work over the past 4 years. Together we passed more than 30 bipartisan laws to support our veterans and their families, caregivers, and survivors. We brought veterans' homelessness down to a record low. We delivered more benefits to more veterans than any ever before in VA history. We've invested record resources to reduce the scourge of veteran suicide. We took action to protect veterans from scams, because no veteran should be defrauded by those they defended. All these actions are vital, but I'm particularly proud of finally passing the PACT Act. This is the most significant law in our history, our nation's history, to help millions of veterans who are exposed to toxins like Agent Orange and burn pits during their military service. Pits the size of football fields that incinerated the wastes of war, tires, chemicals, batteries, jet fuel, and so much more. Pits that left too many veterans with headaches, numbness, dizziness, asthma, and cancer. The PACT Act has already helped over 1 million veterans and their families get the benefits they deserve. They deserve those benefits. Today, I'm proud to announce that the VA will expand the number of cancers covered under the PACT Act. And to all veterans who served at K2 Air Base in Uzbekistan, constantly surrounded by toxins, we want to honor you. We want to have your back, just like we did in Agent Orange, just like we're going to rule to make sure you don't have to prove your illness as a consequence of your service, which is often too hard to do. God willing, we will make sure that any rare condition you've developed is covered. We're committed to getting this rule in place by the end of my term. Folks, this matters. Too many of our nation's veterans have served only to return home to suffer from permanent effects of poisonous chemicals. Too many have died, like our son Bo and like Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, from whom the PACT Act was named. A couple years ago, after I signed the PACT Act, I handed a pen to his daughter, Braylee. She and her mom are with us today. I don't know where you are, but God love you. There they are. Stand up, ladies. Give me a word, I mean this. I'll never forget. After I handed the signing pen, that beautiful young lady who lost her whole world, she held the pen in her hand, and she looked at me and she said, "Thank you. Thank you for my daddy. God love you, honey. God love you." But I don't think she was just thanking me. She was thanking all of you here, all of us, everyone who fought hard and came together to keep our promise to our veterans, to keep the faith. My fellow Americans, we stand here today, we think about all that our veterans have given to our nation, serving and sacrificing in uniform, just as they serve and sacrifice here at home, as educators, firefighters, law enforcement officers, construction workers, entrepreneurs, business leaders, doctors, nurses, elected leaders, and so much more. And just as they routinely put aside differences to work together, this is the moment. This is the moment to come together as a nation, to keep faith in each other. The world is dependent on each of you and all of us, all of you, to keep honoring the women and the men and the families who have borne the battle, to keep protecting everything they fought for, to keep striving to heal our nation's wounds, to keep perfecting our union. We're the only nation in the world built on an idea. Every other nation is based on things like geography, ethnicity, religion. But we're the only nation, the only in the world, built on an idea. And that idea is we're all created equal, deserve to be created equal throughout our lives. We haven't lived up to it every time, but we've never walked away from it. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And today, standing together to honor those Americans who have dared all, risked all, and given all to our nation, we must say clearly, we never will give up. God bless our veterans and their families. And may God protect our troops today and always. God love you. Thank you so much.
Distinguished guests, please stand and join the United States Marine Band and Navy Sea Chanters in singing God Bless America, and remain standing as we retire the colors. Place your right hand over your heart or render a hand salute. Retire the colors. This concludes the 2024 National Veterans Day observance. Please be seated for the departure of the President of the United States and the official party. Thank you for joining us today to celebrate and honor all who served.
I am so excited to stand here among so many incredibly effective change makers. Just a fraction of the incoming Democratic freshman class that I am so excited to work with, to roll up my sleeves with, to dive into the details, and to deliver real progress for the constituents that we represent. I am also honored to be here as the new member of Congress representing the entirety of the great state of Delaware. I first decided to run for office, to run for the Delaware State Senate, to represent the district that I was born and raised in, because of my experiences as a caregiver to my husband, Andy, during his battle with cancer. And from the first moments after Andy was diagnosed with cancer, we both knew how lucky we were. We knew how lucky Andy was to have health insurance that would allow him to get care that would hopefully save his life. And we both knew how lucky we were to have flexibility with our jobs that allowed Andy to focus on the full-time job of getting care and me to focus on the full-time job of being there by his side to care for him, to love him, to marry him, and when we found out that his cancer was terminal, to be there by his side to walk him to his passing. And I decided to run for office because up until his last breath, both of us knew how lucky we were. And I do not believe that in the wealthiest, most developed nation on earth, that time and that ability to get care should be a matter of luck. I believe it should be the law of the land. And I am proud that during my time in the Delaware State Senate, I brought Democrats and Republicans together to pass paid family and medical leave and to secure the largest investment in our state's Medicaid program since so many of these leaders in the Congressional Progressive Caucus passed the Affordable Care Act back in 2010. Now, obviously, we enter Congress at an inflection point in our country. And I think all of us standing here are prepared to protect our progress as a nation. But I know we didn't run for office, we didn't run for the United States House of Representatives just because of what is at risk as we move forward. We ran because of what is possible. And we here in the Congressional Progressive Caucus know that it is possible to build an America where every patient is able to get quality, affordable health care, where every family can secure affordable housing and affordable child care. We know it's possible to protect reproductive freedom in red states and blue states alike. And so I am proud to stand here to represent the greatest state in the union, to stand with these incredible, incredible members of Congress now and in the years to come. And just one thing I want to say that I really appreciate about the Congressional Progressive Caucus is their ability to both live and demonstrate that our destinies are inextricably linked, that all of the policies we fight for are connected. They reject the false distinction in our politics that tries to separate economic issues and social issues, because they recognize that you cannot have equality for all if you have an economy that only works for the wealthy few. But you also cannot have an economy that works for everyone if even one person is kept out of a job because of prejudice or discrimination. And so I look forward to working with all of them to bring down costs facing workers, retirees, and families, and to build an economy that truly works for every American. Thank you very much.
Incredible words. And last but certainly not least, I am thrilled to welcome the first Iranian-American Democrat elected to Congress, Yasmin Ansari, from the great state of Arizona.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It's so wonderful to be here today. My name is Yasmin Ansari. I'm proud to represent Arizona's 3rd District in Congress. That is the district that now Senator Ruben Gallego formerly represented. I am the proud daughter of 2 immigrants who came to this country fleeing persecution and the revolution in Iran. It is an honor to stand here today as the first Iranian-American Democrat ever elected to Congress, and I believe the youngest woman in the next Congress, but I'm not 100% sure. I am incredibly proud of my progressive record protecting our climate, workers, housing, and immigrant communities. Make no mistake about it, in a Republican-controlled government, we have a fight ahead, and I am ready. I am proud of the district that I represent and the work that we have moving forward. On the city council and as vice mayor, I made history as the youngest woman ever elected to the Phoenix City Council, representing one of the most diverse districts in the nation's 5th largest and fastest growing city. Phoenix continues to face climate catastrophes. We had triple-digit days well into October. We're on the front lines of record-level heat and hundreds of individuals dying each year, a quickly growing unhoused population, so there's a lot of work to do. In my time serving Phoenix, I helped protect abortion access when Roe v. Wade was overturned, raised wages for thousands of workers in our city, led the creation of a worker heat safety ordinance that protects 10,000 outdoor workers from extreme heat. And when it comes to climate, I led the effort to unanimously pass on a bipartisan basis a transportation electrification plan, one of the most ambitious plans to install public charging infrastructure, thanks to progressive policies that my colleagues here today helped pass at the federal level. We could not have done this work without the bipartisan infrastructure bill, without the Inflation Reduction Act, without the American Rescue Plan. So I'm very excited to continue doing that work here nationally. I also was proud to work on zoning reform and helped allocate more than $140 million towards creating new emergency shelter beds, towards enacting progressive zoning reform at the city level, and to making sure that we are prioritizing the building of housing with urgency so that we can combat the national housing supply crisis. Now I'm looking forward to taking the work that I've done for Arizona families at the city level and bringing that perspective to the national level. As the youngest woman to serve in the next Congress, I also feel an immense responsibility about the issues facing our generation. As a young person, I decided to run for public office in the first place following the first Trump election because I had worked on the Paris Climate Agreement as a UN climate advisor and was devastated when Trump pulled out of that historic accord. As you know, the daughter of immigrants from the Middle East, the Muslim ban directly affected my family and so many of those in our community. District 3 in Phoenix is a very diverse district. There are more than 64 languages spoken. So it is not lost upon me that the threats and the policies that the Trump administration and the far right have proposed are going to be horrendous for our communities in District 3. And I'm ready and eager to work alongside these incredible colleagues, Chair Jayapal, Whip Kassar, and the new members and the entire Democratic Party to make sure we're standing up for housing, for healthcare, for immigrant communities, for our climate, and there's going to be so much work to do, and I'm very, very eager and excited to do so. Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Rep-elect Ansari. And so now we're happy to take some questions. You can direct them to any of us. And if somebody has, let's see, why don't we start right here? Actually, let's go to you, and then we'll come here, and then behind you.
Thank you, Chair Jayapal. I just wanted to get your reaction. Obviously, we've seen the president-elect name a number of people to his new administration, from your GOP colleague Elise Stefanik to U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Policy, and also Tom Homan, who he's named as a border czar. I just want to get your specific reaction to those picks. You know, you said that you would serve as a check on the incoming Trump administration. So what do these picks say to you, and what will your strategy be?
Well, look, I think the election results made clear this is going to be a very challenging time. Stephen Miller and Tom Homan were the architects of a lot of the first Trump administration horrific immigration policies. And so family separation, mass detentions, those kinds of things is what was promised and by the Trump administration, and I think what we're going to have to fight. So I think we're going to continue to see a number of people that have disturbing histories being appointed to many of these positions. We're going to have to figure out how we fight that best. This is not a first Trump term. This is a second Trump term, and I take some there are both positives and negatives with that. I think we have fought this before to the point where we elected a new president in 2020. We did not elect Donald Trump. At the same time, this is many fewer restrictions with the kind of electoral majority that he won. And so I think we're in that discernment process. We'll have to figure out exactly what this looks like. And obviously he's going to continue to name people to these positions who have been architects of Trump's Project 2025 agenda. Yes.
Do you have any plans to specifically protect climate and environment
We are in that process now, and any new members who want to speak on any of these topics, please just come on and step on up to the mic, and we'll give you a shot here. But I think we are in the process right now of figuring out, first of all, do we have a House majority? If we do, how slim is it? Obviously, I know that the path to that looks slim, but I do think that when it comes to protecting the Inflation Reduction Act and many of the things that we were able to get in both the IRA and the infrastructure bill, it will be very interesting to see if the same Republicans who voted no and took the dough now vote no again, because these are investments that are helping their districts. These investments helped districts across the country, including many that voted for Trump. And so I think we'll have to see what happens. Clearly, we're going to have a fight on our hands again around the Paris Climate Agreement. Around just the recognition of the reality of climate change. So I don't know how anyone could be here on this day in November with this weather and not be really conscious of what's happening here. Yes?
We heard from Whip Kassar about the discussions about soul searching within the party. Given what we saw on election night and the electorate shifting rightward, what's your view on that? Does the party need to change its messaging or policy preferences? And if you agree with that premise, then what would be your plans to do so?
Well, I'll speak for myself, and then I do want our whip to speak as well. Look, I have said that I think we need to rebuild the party. I think for too long our party has been held hostage to big money interests. Some of that comes from the fact that we allow money in politics in ways that are incredibly destructive to the voice of the people getting through. Some of it is due to longstanding structures like the filibuster, where you can have a simple majority pass all kinds of bills in a Democratic House, and then they won't get through in a Democratic Senate. But it also has to do with how willing we are to fight for working people and poor people across this country. And I'm very deliberately putting in poor and working people, because if you look at the results of how we lost the under 100,000 category of voters, this is very important for us to recognize. People are tired, and you might say to me, well, how come, is that a rejection of the Biden era policies and the things that we got done in the first 2 years? And I would just say it is not a rejection. And I haven't seen many of you talking about this, but tell me if some of you have. We passed a whole bunch of really important pandemic relief policies at the end of the Trump administration, which he put his names on, but it was Democrats who really pushed for those relief checks, and then the beginning of the Biden administration. Rent relief, mortgage eviction assistance, public transit assistance, child tax credit, small business assistance. You can go through the list of things we passed, and then they got taken away. They got taken away by Republicans getting elected to the House, and no longer could we generate the will to keep those in place. So tangibly, people did lose something. They were measurably worse off because now they had inflation with no assistance from the federal government, which Democrats had pushed so hard. I don't think we messaged that well. I think we need to figure out how to do better on that. And I think we've got to pick some big fights where people can't be in denial or question whether or not we are standing up for them or whether we're standing up to the big corporate interests, because I think that we have more work to do on that, and I think it's a difficult message to send when you're trying to court money from that community and at the same time you're saying we need regulation around this. I think the Biden administration did a really good job. Look at the fact that Lina Khan was in Arizona campaigning with Ruben Gallego, who won his race on price gouging and antitrust and monopoly. But let me ask Rep. Kassar if he wants to add anything to that.
There clearly is, as a fact of life right now, an unfortunate and tragic fact of life, a massive right-wing propaganda machine, and everybody here in the media I know competes with it and knows it. It's a tragic fact of life, a right-wing propaganda machine, and right-wing officials that make people's lives worse. They are the arsonists, but then they blame the firefighters for the flames, time after time after time. And the question for the Democratic Party is, what do you do in response to it? Because that's not going to change, and that's only going to get worse under the Trump administration. And the Democratic Party's response, I think, has to very clearly be for working people as the core of who it is that we are. For working and working class people and poor people and for everyday people. We should not abandon being the party of civil rights. We should be standing up for the rights of every single person, as Elect McBride just laid out. But that's what people need to hear from us first. And I think, when you asked about whether the American people moved rightward in your question, I was in swing state after swing state talking to undecided voter after independent voter, and I sensed very few, if any of them, moving actually rightward. What they wanted was a government that actually worked for them. What they wanted was somebody to make it cost less and for them not to have to keep working harder and harder to be able to make ends meet. Now, if you look at the Democratic Party platform versus the Republican Party platform, that's pretty clear that, for example, Trump's tax scam is largely benefiting the 1%, whereas Democrats are trying to help everyday people. But in talking to those voters, they said, I don't know whether, who is really for who and what here is really real. And I can't blame them for that. And so I think our job is to make it really clear who we stand up for and that we're willing to stand up against the powers that be for those everyday people. And that's what these new members have been able to do so effectively in their campaigns. And I think that's what the future of a majoritarian, progressive, principled, and popular Democratic Party can be.
Okay, we'll go here and then here.
Just more on this soul searching. You're talking a lot about people not knowing necessarily the work that Democrats were doing, both in this term and just on the campaign trail. Who do you blame for that disconnect between what your message was and people actually not being able to receive it?
I am trying not to blame at this point. I think we need to come to this with some humility, and we need to look really clearly at the data, some of which, by the way, we won't get for another 6 months in terms of real voter files. I do think that we need to stop basing our electoral and policy decisions on polling. There are a bunch of people who get really rich from polling, but at the end of the day, we need to talk to voters. We need to find out not only from the voters that voted for Trump in swing states, but also we lost, part of the reason I think we're down on the popular vote is I've seen numbers indicating that voter turnout in blue states went down. And we do need to pay attention to our base also, and we need to talk to people who didn't vote or chose to vote down ballot but not top of the ticket, because that happened as well. So I'm not really interested in blame. I'm interested in figuring out how we push against a lot of strictures that exist, money in politics, the filibuster, but also people's predilection to think that you can run to the center or to the right every time and forego your base. I need to look at data, but I'm not sure that got us many results. And I think that, as one of my colleagues the other day said, we have one party that's xenophobic. We don't need another. So let's figure out who we are as Democrats. Let's really embrace that. And let's be clear, as Rep. Kassar said, that we are standing up for people who deserve to be stood up for, working people, poor people across this country who are really struggling. And there's a level of anger that I think that this election really brought out. And as much as it was wonderful for many of us to think about joy and love and beautiful things that we in the Progressive Caucus really love to think about as well, the reality is we also have to channel a lot of the anger that's out there about the fact that people don't have a fair shot anymore.
One of the interesting things,
And again, anyone step up if you want.
to look at the House, House Republicans and just the Congress in the last 2 years has been the most unproductive since the Civil War. You guys spent a lot of time on the campaign trail pointing to that. Republicans spent a lot of time on the campaign trail frustrated about their lack of productivity and passing legislation. How does that counter, how do you counter that, American voters choosing that again, with the way that it's going? It looks like Republicans will have either the same majority or one less. What is that in your guys' mind when you rethink as you're doing soul searching? What does it mean when the American voters chose to once again have the House Republican?
Well, I think you're probably right. That is probably what's going to happen. I think the one thing about a trifecta, including on the other side, is very difficult to blame anyone else. If you can't get stuff done, you are the one that can't get stuff done. We had this situation where we had Democrats in the minority in the House who felt, it incumbent upon us, we can debate whether or not that was, that was the right thing or not, to fix Republicans' lack of being able to govern instead of letting it show through that they couldn't govern time after time after time. Because we also had the Senate and the presidency. So there was incentive for us to try to help. I don't know that in this Congress with a trifecta, a Republican trifecta, that you're going to see that same desire. I think this is going to be much more of what we saw in 2017, 2018 with the Republican trifecta, where Democrats will be united for a block and tackle and let them figure out how they're going to run. Voters voted for them. Let's see what they do, because I think that they're going to be in a position where if they try to strip health care, if they try to take away all these things that go against what they seemingly promised to voters, let's see what happens in that situation. Yes. And then Nick. Okay, we'll do, and then Nick as well. Yeah.
You mentioned the filibuster several times. It may be the procedural tool that protects some of the investments that you talk about with the Inflation Reduction Act and Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. How do you square the demands that Democrats have with, filibuster reform and the fact that, given this probable, Republican trifecta, that may be the tool that protects some of these investments that may be on the chopping block?
Well, look, I think this is where it goes back to before this election, right? If we had had control of the trifecta and gotten rid of the filibuster to pass minimum wage, to pass paid sick leave, to pass many of these things that are passing abortion access, that are passing on ballot measures that are so popular, those aren't going to the state legislatures either. Those are going to the ballot. Then I think we would have built some trust with the American people. Republicans, don't forget, already got rid of the filibuster for taxes. The tax scam didn't require 60 votes. And so I think that I don't think it's in opposition at all. I think, obviously, would I be, am I championing getting rid of the filibuster now when the Senate has the trifecta? No. But had we had the trifecta, I would have been, because we have to show that government can deliver. And right now, even with people going to the ballot, they are bypassing their government because they don't feel like government, whether it's at the state level or the federal level, is actually going to get them the things that they need. Okay, last question, Nick.
I just wanted to ask about some of the soul searching we've seen in the party so far. Some in your party have blamed voters' perceptions that Democrats lean too far into culture war issues, transgender issues as part of it. Is this helpful? How should your party be responding to those kinds of GOP attacks?
Anyone want to take?
So a couple things. First, I want to echo what Chair Jayapal said, that this is a moment for soul searching, and there should be humility across the Democratic Party, regardless of where you fall ideologically, regardless of what your priors are. I think we should take a beat. Votes are still being counted. There's plenty of time for us to dive into the data to really understand what fully happened and what role different issues played in this campaign. Let's be clear. The party that was focused on culture wars, the party that was focused on trans people, was the Republican Party. It was Donald Trump. It was the $100 million, $200 million that they spent on television ads. But I want to be clear, I do not believe, from what I've seen in Delaware, that voters in my state were responding to those attacks. Delaware is in the Philadelphia media market, so we were seeing those ads that Donald Trump clearly prioritized and focused in with regard to the culture wars. What I was hearing from voters across the state of Delaware, my district is urban, suburban, and rural. It looks like America. And what I was hearing was not the ads that Donald Trump was putting on the air. What I was hearing from folks is the need to build an economy that works for everyone. What I was hearing was that the American dream is increasingly unaffordable and inaccessible. What I was hearing was that we need to guarantee affordable health care, housing, and child care for every person in this state and in this country. That's what I was hearing. That's what I was campaigning on. I didn't run on my identity, but my identity was not a secret. And in a state where 2/3 of the voters are in the Philadelphia media market, with a trans candidate on the ballot statewide, that candidate not only performed on par with other Democrats, but had the highest percentage of any Democrat running for major statewide office in Delaware this cycle. And so I think what we have to all recognize here is that when a politician tries to take an issue that impacts a handful of people in a handful of states and turn it into the most important issue in an election, everyone has to ask why. And the answer to that question is that Donald Trump was trying to divide and distract from the fact that he has absolutely no policy solutions for the issues that are actually keeping voters up at night, the issues that I was hearing about on the campaign trail. And I think we have to be crystal clear as we move forward that we are going to call out the hypocrisy of Donald Trump, of disingenuously claiming that he is a fighter for working people when his agenda is pro-higher cost and pro-inflation. That's what we will get with his agenda in this administration. And that's why I think all of us are united in serving as that check on his administration and continuing to point out to people that he is not working on behalf of the diverse working class in this country.
Beautiful. Well, please join me in welcoming our members-elect. We are so proud of every single one of you. We are so grateful for your service. And thank you all. I'm sure you'll get a chance to talk to them in more detail. Take care. Have a good one.
I wanted them behind us. Nope, just me. Wait, can I get Congresswoman? Can we get one picture too? There's a text thread. We want one. Just like one more picture, please. Sorry. With who? All of us? Yeah, everyone. In the back row, we're all always have that. Okay.
That's mine.
Sorry, I gotta take
Do you want to move the podium?
Could you guys take one step this way? The podium is just blocking a little bit. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Thank you. Exactly.